Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode, we battled through the first portion of the first part of the trial here, and we sort of succeeded. I mean, it's kind of neutral right now, the stance, but the prosecution's actually at a disadvantage here with the jury. So we'll see what these next couple of witnesses after the recess are going to do for us. We also don't know what Iris is planning either, because, you know, she said she had something that she wanted to take care of beforehand. So we'll go find out. She did seem really keen on investigating the crime scene, though. So maybe she went there by herself and snuck in to investigate. That would be rude, but we'll see.
Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis, you've been picking holes in it from the start.
Sorry about that.
But you promised me. You said you'd prove that dratted explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me.
Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there?
But if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see? It's because my work is incomplete.
Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he?
Oh. Oh, no!
You're right.
You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just as a scientist, but as a human being.
Well, that might be a little over the top.
And while we're on the subject, what about Barrick? He's being awful.
Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean?
He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait, he's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore?
Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you?
Yes, what?
The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved?
Oh? I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it.
Alright, Professor, I understand.
Counsel defeated.
The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way to the courtroom, please.
Give them the stereotypical smoker accent this time. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? I feel like the correct course of action is to prove that, well, you gotta prove the truth, right? So you gotta figure out whether or not the body was moved. We know that something crashed into the Crystal Tower, but what could it have been? I don't know. Because we haven't gotten the chance to examine the scene where the body was found, right? We haven't gotten that opportunity. So we don't know anything about that. We just have that picture of the body itself over at the Crystal Tower, which is very confusing to me, because the body had to have moved from there to there, but we don't know how.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify?
The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord.
So, Lord Van Zeeks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes?
Indeed they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. That was supposed to be sarcastic, I believe. Like, perfect. A detective of all people. But sure. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present and on the stage at the time, the accused.
Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth your witnesses now.
Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. One of you is a... Oh, okay, there's Gina. There's 3. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. Oh boy. You must be the balloon operator, right? Who in the fuck is the guy in the middle, though? Very confusing me. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of the quote-unquote blind pianist from Case 3? Yeah, Case 3 of Apollo Justice. That's what he reminds me of, just right off the bat. What voice should I give you? My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Experimento stage. Oh boy. You are German. My name is Wilhelm Gottreich Sigismund Ormstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm gonna give him a little bit higher pitched voice too. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only at an altitude of circa 60 feet. Very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you? 60 feet, about 18 meters then.
Thank you for your introductions. Now, you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage.
So maybe we want to approach this as making it so that they disagree with one another? It was an Are you Spanish? I mean, I caught that a little bit, but it seems like, or maybe he's Italian, I'm not sure. It was an incidente terribile. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And oh boy, I'm struggling here. These are three very different voices. And from amid this smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from sky like a stone, and it crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went after it crashed into the tower.
A most extraordinary collective account, I must say.
Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places. Yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were 2 other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred, directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower. Oh, interesting.
I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide.
I very much apologize. I'm trying though. Based on the way it's written, I think I have to.
I still have lots of money.
I know you have money. Shut up.
Precisely who is this curious infant?
I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition.
Yeah, I am here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that?
When I remove my mask, this is what I look like.
Ah, yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody says so.
Probably because you have money. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Asman on the stage could possibly have committed the murder.
Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. So, the defense's cross-examination now, please.
Yes, my lord. Oh boy. Let's see what we can do here. I'm just gonna press everything.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand.
Si, all 3 of them. My bellissimi bambini.
I'm assuming Italian, because he's doing stuff like that.
They are very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride.
£10? That's more than my annual stipend.
£20 a month. That is my pocket money.
Rails have all the luck.
I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know.
Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though?
Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other.
The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area.
See, and the zone above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me.
Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident?
Right, I can fill you in there, my lord.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the incident happen from up in the air?
Yep. Isn't it amazing what detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto, being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think?
Everything. We saw everything, because we were up above it all. That dodgy gove climbing into that cage, and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared, just like that.
You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked around and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. There was nothing there before.
Oh, really? I think one of the interesting portions that she just said was there was a bang right in her ear. Because that would mean it was behind her? Sort of like behind her to the left? Interesting.
Excuse me.
What do you have to say there? Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use the full name.
Ah, yes, what was it again?
Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund Ormstein.
Just the four names then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps?
Oi, get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I addressed him at the moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure. Which is what I said, isn't it? 1 minute there was nothing there, next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? I wouldn't call that joy.
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
A green balloon? Ooh.
Eh? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it's a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical.
Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's Police. Wow. Destroyed in fucking one sentence.
In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony. In the interests of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia.
It was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
Hold it!
Oh, really? A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I am sure. I am proud Bohemian Prince. All these questions are making me boring.
I think you mean bored.
Ah, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior.
Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie.
Lie?
Flying balloons never explode for the same reason the planets never explode. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia.
My die.
I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them.
Wow. That was very mean. And then he gives him money for another balloon. Here you are, your highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Lune?
No, I did not see the explosion myself. However, the cage, it fell from the sky like a stone, and it crashed into the crystal tower.
Hold it!
Did you see that actually happen? I almost made him Van Zieks for a second.
No, in reality I did not. I saw it after it hit the tower. There was a grande confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed.
I suppose they are his livelihood.
But when I looked up to the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I am a detective now.
That has no bearing on the fact that you saw it. Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade.
That's what I like to hear.
Hold it!
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away?
Use your head, Otto. How could it have been me? I was up in a balloon, wasn't I?
Right.
So cause I wasn't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by the panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing!
Poor Inspector Gregson.
So anyway, I couldn't see the cage that well because of all the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of me wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. Prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine, but what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. That's true. Boop. Is there a... There's a green balloon. So I'm assuming that I want to present this. To like agree with his shit. But I'm gonna save first. Just to make sure. Because I feel like that's a piece of the puzzle, but I don't know whether that's what the game wants me to do. But we'll try it.
Objection!
Nope. See, surely something about that last statement seems odd, doesn't it?
Would you care to mull over precisely what you find odd about it on your returning journey to Japan?
I wouldn't be back to give the court an answer for about 4 months, though.
Rest assured, we should be happy to carry proceedings forward in your absence, counsel.
He sounds serious. I have to prove my worth before he really does send me back home. That's rude. I think that's one of the most rude things that he said. So maybe I need to, let me load that real quick so I can get my stuff back. So, I need to prove which one we're on. My balloons were not damaged. Huge bang from the stage. Another bang from in the sky beside us. It was Nazi sky that exploded. Green balloon. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed in the crystal tower. Oh, I forgot. No, I'll skip through that. I feel like I already... This is a tough one. I don't know why it's tough, considering I thought that was it, but... Huge bang from the stage. Next second, another bang in the sky beside us. No one went near it after it crashed into the tower. Cage fell from the sky like a stone, crashed into the crystal tower. I don't know what it's getting at. I mean, this was the new statement that was added, right? It was a green balloon that was next to yours at the time, and I can prove it with this, right? I can prove that his statement has merit. Am I supposed to, like, go over here and go, only grateful that my balloons were not damaged, and say, well, we've got this piece of a balloon that he says was popped right there. I don't know why I'm saving again, considering I just reloaded the save, but we're going to try this sort of approach. I don't think this is it, but maybe it is. Maybe that's what they're trying to get you to check here.
Objection.
It is, okay. Mr. Lune, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged.
See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosiones, it would have been terrible.
I wonder if you might know what this is?
Ah, I think it may be... See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric on the envelope.
Of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope?
Pardon. That is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky.
Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gods testified, a green balloon did indeed explode on that day.
Eh?
If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Lune, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence.
No!
If a balloon exploded that day, then why didn't the man say so?
Maybe everyone on board was killed.
Oh no, having just spent the 10 whole pounds for the experiment? How awful. Seems to me like those days crash 50% of the time anyway.
The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage, and the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon.
Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible.
An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts.
You're really trying to sweep that under the rug real quick.
This I cannot accept!
Why not, Mr. Lune?
You are suggesting that I am a liar? The persons died in a balloon incidente.
There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Lune. The victim was the sole fatality that day.
That's right, and I prove it. Balthazar Lune is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. It is non possible.
You're saying it's impossible. Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Aye!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Lune.
I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating at the exhibition.
Ah, grazie, my lord. Grazie? I know that's Italian for thank you. As I said, Balthazar Lune is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. Oh, we got the Allegro here. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe! But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? The coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on stage. This stupid old ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you?
Si, exactamente. If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. Wow. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war. All out war. What happened to All Out War? This is actually kind of funny. I do like this this group of witnesses together. Mr. Lune certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witnesses' statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses.
Alright, here we go. Mr. Lune's balloons. Okay. You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Signor. I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons! Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grande and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons.
It would appear no mistake has been made then.
Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What, me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have to go himself in that case. That sounds about right.
Hold it!
It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Lune, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? That must be Italian for I don't know. How do you run balloons and don't know how they work? There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen. Lighter than air, but highly explosive.
Good lord!
I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is esplosione! Esplosione! I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat! None of my balloons exploded that day. I am completely sure. But if you still say that is what happened, you must show me the proof! Alright, so Mr. Lune had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? Well, I knew from the get-go that it wasn't one of his that exploded. Unless he was an accomplice to the trick that they were trying to do. But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can you?
Hold it!
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues?
Nah, I'm not into picking stuff up on the ground, me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead.
So much for the new career path.
Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is, though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? So that's where most of the investigation was going on.
Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence.
Cool. Listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world.
Pardon?
Well, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to.
You have to have grounds for that. I wouldn't put it past her, though, no. I do have a badge, actually. Here's the fucking armband.
Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation.
Hold it!
There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of the goves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh?
I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions.
Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh?
The man's sole pleasure.
None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente!
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong?
Si, signor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be.
For the sake of argument, let's say a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree.
You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition?
Si, exactamente. As the signor says, it is not from one of my balloons. Clearly, this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Well, he doesn't seem like that's the case. Is something wrong, Master Gotts?
It's Master Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund Ormstein!
It was on the tip of my tongue.
Ja, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it all over Bohemia.
You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have evidence, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh?
Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments.
Evidence? What is this evidence?
To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious!
What? I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar. The balloon?
Hot eel cellar? And the instantaneous kinesis experiment? Did you take a picture of that?
Ja, one picture.
Really? Or fun picture? Really, you did take one.
But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments.
Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph?
Of course. And then you will see. You will see that I am not lying. That I really did see a green balloon.
Oh, it's black and white. Of course it's black and white. Damn it. Well, we can't tell it's green, but we can tell that something's going on there.
Well, I see you were all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Ja, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault! That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera!
Cries in Bohemian. That is one very Bohemian sounding cry. I'm not doing it again.
Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence.
What a mess.
It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Ooh, well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
You don't say.
When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred.
Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig.
Lovely language you've picked up. As I thought, Mr. Lune's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon, but Mr. Lune vehemently denies the possibility, and it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Alright. Well, I don't think it's this, but I'm still going to look at the photograph now that we've got it. Whoa. Something was shot from almost below the stage up at that balloon to blow it up. And it looks like there was no one inside either. So steam came out of the, steam/smoke came out of the vents. That's interesting. Which obscured, not really obfuscated, obscured the this part right here. And then there was something that was shot up as a result from below and popped that balloon. causing confusion. See, I don't think it's one of his balloons. And I don't think, yeah, I don't think it was one of his balloons. I just think it was a different balloon. Maybe it's this? It wasn't... We can prove that it was from the balloon. I actually don't know which one we're supposed to present this on, but I'm gonna guess this one.
Objection.
Nope. Incorrect. Yeah, I'm not even gonna wait for that, to be honest. Just go back and try it again. Ah, carrying passengers. I missed that part. This one's not carrying a passenger.
Objection.
Yeah, this one's not carrying a passenger. Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers.
Ah, my goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would have been no sense in it otherwise.
See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers.
Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon.
I know nothing, niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly one such an entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition, and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Lune's patch without him realizing.
See, the competizione, trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the esperimento that went wrong on stage.
This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below.
Right, so them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks. They didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention.
A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case.
Its relevance does elude me, I must say.
The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. They don't seem to think so, though. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up. And not in our favor. Are they really? I don't know how they could be. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? Of course there's something more.
Objection.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more vital clue.
What's that?
A vital clue?
Objection!
I don't fucking remember how to do the Transylvania accent just off the top of my head. We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Sha, that's right. Sha, it was not my fault.
Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited. Incorrect. No, that's not what happened. What?
It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court.
Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see, and what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have, in a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is... this thing right here.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film.
I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort.
If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is.
Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes.
Oh golly, do you think it might be lightning?
It's firing up.
But it couldn't have been a finer day.
I believe we may be looking at fire.
A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could have possibly reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that is exactly what happened.
What evidence? If such evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man! Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
That would be the crossbow.
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene.
Good lord, is that a crossbow?
An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon.
Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately?
Blimey, you're right! That streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then, the esplosione of the balloon it was...
Very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it.
No! Order, order! Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition.
If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently.
Well, yeah, if someone had shot a gun off in the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big esplosione, there was a very big panic anyway, no?
I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued...
Well, wait a minute! What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all? Or... what?
My goodness me!
Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along.
What? Did I just hear that correctly, counsel?
There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage and the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day.
Good grief!
So this is interesting,
Objection.
because it raises a few possibilities, and the key one for me right now is that I think that they being the criminal organization that was backing this experiment, was trying to, you know, get the grant money by proving that this was real using a trick, and this was the trick, right? They knew it was bullshit, and they were using the scientists, they were using Harebrain to, you know, they were using him in order to set up this public display and show it was real, and then, you know, just get the grant money and then be like, actually it was bullshit and we fooled all of you, and then just scamper off with the money. I think that was probably the case. And in order to do this, it's interesting because I wonder what went wrong there, because he had to have been like already dead, right? Or maybe like a struggle ensued up on the crystal tower that ended up killing him or something, but we don't know. We don't know anything about like what happened, whether he was already dead when he was inside the balloon or not, but what we do know is that the screwdriver that was used as a murder weapon was on the stage, and he was in the balloon. So you would think that he had to have been stabbed before he was put in the balloon, which means he would have been dead for a while. But I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment.
And we also have one unaccounted for person, that being the person that was on the stage that then disappeared into thin air. I feel like that may be the magician, because this seems like a magic trick, right? The magician that's a juror. That's the only person I can think of right now.
It's child's play. A contemptible display of stage magic.
Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said that the experiment was a scientific impossibility, in which case this is the only way to explain what happened that day.
And in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception.
Juror number 3.
All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman, and having this other man appear on stage to front the show as a body double.
Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection.
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture.
So he was already dead before it did that.
Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio.
Juror number 4.
Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered.
The mixture ratio?
Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible.
So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with.
Ugh.
In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view at the entire time.
Ah!
This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zieks can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebrain is a suspect now. Uh-oh. Who is it? Oh no, this isn't good.
Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
But, Professor?
But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please.
Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebrain?
I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
What are you doing?
Order, order, order! Defendant, explain the sudden confession.
Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about?
It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick, an elaborate prank, but where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis will be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you'll just let me, I can
Barrack!
Yes.
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in the light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved.
Well, counsel, what is the defense's official position on this matter?
What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request to see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Mr. Naruhodo!
There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... I mean... I'm gonna say conjuring trick 10 times out of 10. There's no question. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your feelings. Ah! No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. I don't know who this is. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? A what? What? What the fuck? Yo, hey, nice of you to drop by on the other side of the world. What's up? I didn't even say her line. Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato-san! But what are you? Hiya! Yes! Get fucked! Ah! My first Susato takedown in 6 months. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Hairbrain.
Yes?
Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now.
Ah!
Well, there goes two. Making a counter here. So, you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
Barrick?
Lord Van Zeeks.
Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there is one thing. Something I've remembered that's of relevance.
What?
On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon?
Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like?
Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me too, a monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify the man. You see, I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
What?
He built the machine?
That's right. Mr. Asman introduced me to him a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber.
Enoch? Drebber? Does this... Oh, that's the wrong voice. Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. That man's an abomination.
Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he?
I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money.
When magicians are in need of money, I have heard them resorting to these underhand tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Dreber's name before.
The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here.
This man looks like, you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of like the grandfather of the sort of conductor guy from Thomas the Tank Engine. That's what he looks like to me. I don't remember his name. I don't think they called him Mr. Top Hat, but it's similar to that.
That's Enoch Dreber for you.
Boo! So that's probably the end for the proceedings for today. Which is good because we're over time.
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion.
Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Dreber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume.
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Dreber.
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Dreber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money.
When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Dreber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore.
Sad times indeed. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the next necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
But hey, you're innocent, so that's pretty cool.
Yep, it would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Cheeks.
My lord.
The court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is crucial. Critical.
Yes, Mr. Dreber.
Gather information about the man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena.
With pleasure, my lord.
Now, counsel for the defense.
Yes, my lord.
When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he is presently stands accused.
I understand.
Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Go talk to your girlfriend, Mr. Naruhodo.
We got one more epilogue here. You know what? We're just going to end it right here. You know what? We're going to leave the Susato talk until tomorrow. Well, yeah, it will be tomorrow. We'll see if I record the day after I'm recording this. But yes, the trial is done. And next up, we have the reuniting with Susato. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm assuming that this was Iris's sort of surprise thing that she was working on. She's like, I have something to do. I need to go pick up Susato from the train station or the pier or whatever it was. So yeah. So that's going to be it for now. Yay, Susato's back. And we definitely have a good standing going into the next day of Court 2, based on what the court knows. So we will see what new twists and turns we will have in this next bit of investigation in the next part. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys then.